I once had a friend, Amber was her name, who never did anything for herself, never earned anything of her own accord, and never achieved anything from her own work and effort. Everything she had came from someone else. Her parents, who were not in any way rich. They certainly weren't poor, but they weren't middle class either. Who did everything around the house for her, who she threw tantrums at to get her own way, who she manipulated into complaining to the school every time a teacher noticed she hadn't done her own work, or was failing, or being disruptive. Her siblings, whom she domineered over. She blackmailed and bribed them into doing her chores, and every other task she didn't feel like doing. She's the youngest of three, I should mention. Her classmates, whom she bullied. The smart kids were forced into doing her homework or letting her copy. The same went for classwork. Anyone the slightest bit different was basically a gazelle to align with her. And with her leading the charge, the general popular crowd sheep soon followed, and their teasing that quickly escalated. Her teachers, who were powerless to do anything against her lest she raise all hell and cry to her parents. I don't begrudge them for barely doing a thing about her. They had bills to pay, and most had kids to feed, and they couldn't afford to lose their jobs. I could go on, but I'm sure it's clear now just what kind of person this friend was. Now I imagine you're wondering why I'd be friends with someone like that in the first place. I can tell you it wasn't really a choice I had. Our families were friends going back to our great-grandparents. Whether I liked it or not, and believe me, I didn't, I had to socialize with this girl during joint family vacations, barbecues, parties, the works. My parents knew what a little witch she was, but they dared not ruin a friendship spanning generations by bringing it up to her folks. So my little sister and I had to endure this human parasite that fed on other people's ideas, influence, and achievements. For the most part, I was spared her bullshit. I think she had been wary of sparking a family feud. Not that that seems in line with how she generally was, but it's the only reason I can think of. For whatever reason, she decided that countless innocents at her mercy were not enough, and she needed to add me into the mix. She couldn't do it in her usual obvious way. No. Instead, she decided to be as sly as she could manage. She stole my journal. Now, this wasn't a journal full of my private thoughts and secrets that she planned to blackmail me with. I fortunately did not have one of those. Though what was stolen from me, in its pages, is arguably just as bad in a different sort of way. My ideas. I used the journal for word and character building, as well as setting up the plot for a story I wanted to write. A story I hoped to publish. I wrote it out because it was precious to me, and I was always worried my laptop would die and I'd be unable to recover it. I'd already drafted up a few of the early chapters too. Once I was happy with them, I planned on typing them up. I didn't get a chance. She took it, took my ideas, my hard work, and passed it off as her own. She used it for our creative writing class at first. I didn't know until the teacher passed around copies she'd made as an example for us. That's when I saw my characters, my plot, a piece of my heart and soul on the page before me. I could feel tears prickling in my eyes when I realized what had happened. I didn't even realize the journal was gone. I'd been too busy with homework in the days before to write in it. There was nothing I could do about it in class. It was my word against hers, even if the teachers knew what she was like. They all bent to her will in the end. All I did was raise my hand and say I didn't feel well. I think the fact I was on the verge of tears added to the lie, and I was excused. The school nurse let me go home with what she presumed was a 24-hour stomach bug. I wanted to tell my parents, but at the same time, I didn't. I didn't want to be the one to blame for tearing apart our families, even if it was really her fault. So I kept it inside, cried in my room. My parents just thought it was because of whatever bug I had. I had been sick before, but letting it bubble up within me gave me knots in my stomach that turned into me vomiting into a bucket my mom left beside my bed. My parents kept me home from school the next day. I thought maybe I'd get over it. Maybe it'd be better the next day, and I could tell them and get my notebook back. Until a friend sent me a text. Hey, Amber gave Miss Temple more of that story. I think she wants to put it in the school magazine. I don't know what happened to me as I read that, but I knew something broke. A mixture of anger, frustration, and sadness flooded me. Hot fury mixed with heartbreak. I couldn't tell my parents. Not now. It wouldn't be enough. A plan was forming in my mind as I lay in bed crying. It wouldn't be something I could do overnight, but it'd be worth it. Let me tell you that years' worth of cosplay experience was invaluable to my plan. I could dress up as pretty much anyone or anything with the right amount of effort and materials, and I already knew what I intended to do once my outfit was complete. She wanted to steal from me? Fine. I'd get even. You see, Amber had this boy she liked. His name is Adam. Adam was kind of a pig. A pig not interested in her, much to her frustration. No, his interests lay in Mrs. Winter and her ease. Though I'm pretty sure, like all assholes, they'd somehow drift together. That's my experience with these sorts of things anyway. That's where my plans come in. Now Amber and I are the same height with the same fair complexion. However, she has blonde hair and green eyes, whilst I have auburn hair and blue eyes. These traits were easily fixed by a long wavy wig and a set of my innumerable contact lenses. The one other difference was that I was blessed with a chest, as it were. A fact I'm sure he'd overlook, or be too preoccupied with staring at to pay much attention to anything else. I did have a plan in mind for that too, if I was questioned. Amber always got her way. It wouldn't be a stretch to imagine she'd convinced her parents to let her get a boob job. I knew he tended to hang out in the alley beside the local arcade, blowing out smoke like he was some cool kid from the 50s or something. He thought the games were too dumb and for kids, so he stayed there whilst his friends played, as if it somehow made his douchebag self more mature. I was waiting for him as he swaggered down the alley. The shaded passage was helpful in concealing my identity. It was a good disguise, but not foolproof. The dark helped with that. "Hey Adam," I called out, trying to up the pitch of my voice to the sickeningly sweet tone Amber had. He barely looked up from his phone as he approached, unlit cigarette held between his lips. "Hey, Emma, right?" "Amber." "Close enough." I managed to laugh. If it was anyone else, I'm sure Amber would have thrown a hissy fit. But with this creep, she'd let anything slide. Idiot. "Think I could bum one of those off of you?" I asked, nodding towards the cigarette. "What's it worth?" His eyes were trained on my chest as he spoke. Ew. Teenage boys. "What, you want a free grab or something?" I felt gross just uttering those words. Now, I have no issue with any guy or girl messing around however they want. It was just sickening humoring this waste of oxygen. If you're offering, I really wasn't, but needs must and all. Fine, but I want that smoke first. He sighed, but stepped forward, putting his phone away and pulling out the box instead. Here, you women always want it your own way. If I had been me, I would have responded to that casual bit of sexism, but I had to keep up the act for just a little while longer. That's because I know what I want, I said, batting my eyelashes. It was true, I did know what I wanted. But it certainly wasn't to let this ass fondle my chest whilst he came in his pants. As he stepped closer, I clutched at the purse hanging from my shoulder. Amber and I both had always made sure to carry large ones around, so it didn't look out of place on me here. We also happened to have an identical pair. Fancy that. Milliseconds passed like hours to me as he drew within touching distance. Closer, closer. I'm sorry. What? My bag came down over his head, and Adam fell to the floor. The knock. I was knocked off balance, stumbling due to the weight of my weapon into the wall. Adam didn't move. He didn't even grumble or swear or any of the things I assumed a person would do when smacked over the head with a concealed brick. I took a breath and straightened myself before finally looking back at Adam properly. My body was shaking. His head was bleeding, unsurprisingly. But it wasn't just bleeding on the side I hit it. He'd managed to crack his head on a step leading into a back entrance of the arcade. He was staring up with blank eyes, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth, as well as his head wounds. The one from the step was deeper than my hit. I was sure I could see his skull, but the blood was pumping through his body so hard and fast, I couldn't be sure. I'd done too good of a job, but no going back now. When my legs stopped shaking so much, I ran, as I had always intended to do, back past the building site where I had picked up the brick and taking it back from my bag and returning it. Straight back into my house and into my room. From there, into my ensuite. Costume dumped on the floor, I let the still cold water from the shower wash over me. It was done. I couldn't take it back. But it had gone even better than planned, really. I feigned shock when my parents sat me down the next day and broke the news to me that one of my schoolmates had been murdered. I forced out tears when they told me CCTV footage had caught Amber in the act. A part of me was proud. I was so convincingly disguised that even my own parents didn't recognize me. We'll be keeping you off school for a while, honey. If you need to go lie down, Maddie, that's okay. The police might be back to talk to you about Amber, but you don't have to talk until you're ready. I sniffled and stood to hug them both before retreating to my room. Oh, I was ready. But I had to play the part of the shocked childhood friend who couldn't understand how someone who was practically a sister to her could do something so heinous. Yes, she'd always been prone to aggressive outbursts, but they were like a toddler's temper tantrums. She never physically hurt anyone. Well, yes, she did prey on some of the meeker kids that were easy targets for bullying, but it just seemed like typical teenage assholery. Nothing really malicious. Now that you mention it, she did have a crush on that boy. Has never liked being told no. Maybe she snapped. I don't know. Her parents could never really discipline her. She walked all over them. She definitely had some issues. I had it all planned out and delivered my lines flawlessly when a pair of officers came to our home to ask a few questions. Amber's reputation was fuel against her. Even her parents, who had understandably been trying to defend their child's innocence, ended up questioning it and exactly what she was capable of. Our families grew apart with the weight of the trial on Amber's parents' backs. But my parents were distantly supportive in their own way, even if things were tense and awkward. Amber continued to deny it even after the guilty verdict was given. I'm told she was sobbing, pleading with the judge and jury, with her parents, begging everyone to believe she was innocent, that it wasn't her. Poor Amber. She liked to take credit for work that was not hers, so I made sure she got the credit for my greatest work yet. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you want to see more, let me know in the comments below, and tell me what you thought of this narration. Make sure to follow me on Twitter for updates, and if you'd like to get early videos, shoutouts, and much more, I'd appreciate it if you check out my Patreon page. It's a place where you can help support my channel while getting awesome rewards in the process, and every pledge helps out a ton, no matter the size. So if you'd like to see all the rewards I offer and consider becoming a patron, it'd mean a ton to me if you'd click the link in the description and just check it out. And don't forget to show some love to the amazingly talented authors who make these narrations possible. Have a good night, everybody. Cheers.